Hello everyone, and welcome back to the EMBR.ACE Education Podcast, where we explore well-being, innovation, and the human side of education. This week is our first week of Embrace Play, the moment in our monthly cycle when we reflect, we celebrate, we look forward, and this month, we've been playing with a big idea: maturing as educators and the role of age, the subtle ways we define value, we found possibility by age. Today, we're turning the lens inward. How can we as educators reinvent ourselves around the age of 40 to 50, not because something's broken, but because we're ready to explore what's next? And I know that this episode is really going to be a challenge or interesting, very interesting to all of you who are around this age. But not just you, everyone who's an educator and exploring new possibilities. Now, I'd like to start with a story. It happens that every time I prepare a podcast like this one, somehow stories find me. So a few days ago, I was in a charity event by AFS. You might want to look into this worldwide initiative that supports young people find their voice. And I found myself discussing with two unique educators and human beings, Margarita and Christina, exactly this subject: how we mature with age and how we redefine ourselves or we reinvent ourselves through this process. This journey for me started at around 30 when I discovered NLP training, coaching, and I myself became a trainer. And then later on with my master's degree in psychology, and finally the creation of neurolearning power that supports thousands of educators and students around the globe to flourish and to find their own well-being. For Christina, it was also a journey of discovery of knowledge when she pursued a master's degree and finally reinvented her career with a new position that really gives her life a new meaning. For Margarita, it was something completely different. For her, it was finding the pleasure and the happiness of giving through volunteerism and offering herself as a volunteer in AFS. Now, obviously, this is a unique journey for everyone. And that's why exactly this short podcast is going to focus on assisting you, on empowering you to find your own path, your own unique path of reinventing yourself. So may I invite you to go into a quick reflection, sit back with your feet on the floor, and let's concentrate on taking a deep breath or some deep breaths. That's right. Keep breathing, and as you do that, let's concentrate on your own learning power right now. I'll be asking you a few questions during the discussion, and I invite you to jot down your answers, because at the end you'll have a more round, a more spherical idea of where this path might be taking you. So the first question is, if I asked you to evaluate your own well-being right now, where would you draw the mark from 1 to 10? I'd like to share something before we go on here. Mid-US is a very interesting study. It's a longitudinal study, as we say in psychology. That means that lasted for a long time. And this one has lasted for over 30 years. And what it shows, that the most recent results show, is that the idea we used to have that well-being dips during middle age and then grows again later on is not true any longer, does not hold true any longer. And this is because, unfortunately, one of the reasons might be, unfortunately, because young people's well-being has lowered. So now the the journey, our well-being journey seems to be growing during life. And this is very interesting because it means that midlife isn't about decline. It's about mastery. It's about control. It's about, not control, but options. So the mid-US study shows that midlife is not about decline. It's about mastery and options. It's a time when we know who we are and what we're capable of, and we start exploring possibilities. Especially if you're an educator and you're questioning everything. Am I still growing? Do I still love this? Like Margarita says, when this cycle closes, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do that makes me wonder, makes me come alive? Then if you have these questions as well, you're not alone and you're not broken. It's part of the journey. It's part of what we want to do as human beings. Because to thrive in middle age and later on, we need something new. We need novelty, something that reawakens the curiosity and the sense of possibility for all of us. Something that doesn't help well-being is growing comfortable. Yes, our brain loves comfort, loves the comfort zone because it helps it automate things. On the other hand, growth means novelty. So growing means getting out of the comfort zone. So if I ask you, where in your work have you grown comfortable? Maybe too comfortable. What would that be? Let's write this down as well. There is another very interesting research on teacher career stages, and specifically Huberman created what he called the professional life cycle of teachers. That's quite a long time ago. However, it shows that around 15 to 20 years in that mark, many educators enter what he called the experimentation phase. And what happens is we begin to look for challenges. We search for new ways to teach, new roles that stretch the educator beyond the classroom. It's a natural developmental shift for educators and the sign of growth. So here comes the next question. If I asked you, what sparks your curiosity about your own growth right now, what would that be? Hit pause and write it down before we continue. Now, if what really sparks your curiosity is developing new skills to support your learners, whether adults or children, to grow themselves, then you might be interested in your neurolearning power. This is where neurolearning power comes in, because at its heart, neurolearning power is about recognizing that our plastic brains crave change. Neuroscience tells us that novelty and learning keep the brain plastic. And what this means is actually they keep the brain changing, more alive, literally, more alive, more engaged. So when educators are given chances to learn something new, you see their eyes spark. This is also supported by the neurochemistry of the brain. When educators are given the chances to learn something new, to reframe maybe their professional identity, what happens is our brains release dopamine. And dopamine is the same curiosity chemical that fuels motivation, joy, engagement in anything we do. So the key in midlife is not about balance or harmony, as we say in neurolearning power. Maybe it's about creative stimulation, a sense of not I have done only, but I am becoming, I am still becoming, I am now becoming. So, in other words, one of the most powerful outlets for the energy we've amassed through the years is diversification, expanding what it means to be an educator. And that's why more and more teachers are exploring paths like educational neurocoaching, for example, that blends coaching, psychology with cognitive neuroscience and NLP mastering to support students, to support learners to grow and change. And that's what neurocoaching actually does. It builds on everything we already know and we already do well as teachers, listening deeply, designing learning experiences, celebrating progress, however small, And it adds a brain-friendly lens. It adds understanding of how brain works, how stress shapes cognition, how to create conditions for authentic motivation, and most of all, it focuses first on our own well-being and creating a supportive team that can take us to our next level or can support us to grow into our next level. And of course, learning or growing into this path is an antidote to ageism, because rather than being too old or too tired, educators in our 40s or 50s and beyond, we bring wealth. We bring the wealth of lived experience that makes us incredible coaches. You see, with the experience we're given by all these years in the classroom, we can interpret emotions, we can read classroom dynamics, we can hold space for others to learn. These are skills that neuroscience shows are rooted in empathy, in emotional regulation, and both of these improve with age. So if you've been feeling that tug towards reinvention, maybe the answer isn't living education, as unfortunately it happens with many educators right now. Maybe it's evolving your role within it. So let's take a deep breath and ask ourselves the important question. Where do I feel most alive in my work right now? Going back to all the questions and reading your answers will probably point you towards a specific direction. Listen to it. It might be taking you to your next level, to reinventing yourself. Neurolearning power reminds us that our brains are not static. Even at midlife, neuroplasticity is alive and well, but it needs challenge to thrive. So, may I invite you to choose one thing this month that stretches you 10% outside your comfort zone. That's the sweet spot for renewal. That's the zone where learning and well-being meet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your own ideas, what these questions have taken you, this play has taken you. And I do hope it's helped you find a way to reinvent yourself as an educator. Now it's time to play the Embrace game, the Reinvention edition. 2 short personal questions for reflection, and we'd love to hear your answers into the chat. Number 1, what's the story, thinking of everything we've been saying this month, what's the story about age that you've been telling yourself and you want to retire? And what's a new story that you'd like to live into? And question 2, what's one novel experience that you'll say yes to before this year ends? Something that makes your brain buzz with curiosity. Pause, jot them down, talk them over with a friend or a colleague, and that's neurolearning power in action. As we close, remember, midlife isn't a downfall. It's the start of an upward curve. The science says that your well-being, especially if you feed your mind with new learning and novelty, is always going to grow. Whether through teaching, mentoring, neurocoaching, you have everything you need to reinvent yourself. Not by starting over, but by starting again. Thanks for joining us for this month's Embrace Play. Next month, we'll open a new chapter and we'll keep expanding what's possible in education and well-being. Until then, keep embracing curiosity, courage, and change.